road, and this is what this car's all about. It's such a sweet engine. It revs so sweetly. It makes such an amazing sound that I often still hit the rev limiter. It is just amazing. Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack, and if you're thinking of buying a 147 GTA, then you're both a lunatic and a genius. They are brilliant cars, but do be prepared for a little bit of pain that comes with the ownership of one of these. In this short buyer's guide, I'm going to be talking about the background of the car, so generally why they were developed, how they came to be. I'm going to be talking about the maintenance costs, the spec that you should go for, so sort of essential options to have when buying a GTA, the bodywork, the interior, mechanicals, stuff like that. And then I'm going to take it for a test drive and tell you what you should look out for when you drive one yourself. Having owned this for close to a year now, I thought it'd be quite useful to put some thoughts down so that others can sort of benefit from my experience so far. The 147, when it came out, was a revelation for Alfa. It was a step up in terms of quality, it was a step up in terms of the car more generally. And when the GTA came out, which wasn't originally a plan, people were incredibly excited because Alfa rammed probably the best ever V6 engine crammed it into this hatch, which it was never designed to have. That is both good and bad. It's good because we got a hatch which is really pretty much like no other. It's bad because it leads to one of the biggest problems with this car, which is running costs. So why is that? Well, there's two reasons really. The 3.2 litre V6 is quite a heavy lump. In and of itself, that causes some issues, and essentially it means that at the front, tyres, bushers, that kind of stuff, they're almost like consumable on these. They do go very, very quickly because they have to put up with that weight and the power of the 3 litre V6, 3.2 litre. The other thing is that the engine has been absolutely crammed in to that engine bay. So there are quite a few bespoke bits that are not shared with other cars, and the other bit is that it's just very difficult to work on because there is so little space, and that in turn means that some of the servicing is expensive. So the cam belt, Alfa said every, I think, 70,000 miles and every 5 years, but I think wisdom is every 60,000 miles and every 5 years, or 4 years actually. To do a belt change on this, it is going to cost you about £900, £1,000. That's more than it costs on a Ferrari 308, for example, so it is really expensive. It's pretty thirsty. It's not the worst in the world, but it is fairly thirsty. I think if you used it around town, you'd probably get early 20s or below that. On motorway runs, if you're doing sort of 70, I've seen sort of 30 miles to the gallon. So it's not terrible, but it's not brilliant fuel-wise. Insurance is fairly expensive, and things do go wrong. Just little things like the washer bottle on this is leaking, my clutch pedal mechanism failed, the light is alternatively working and not working. They're just little things, and it's such a shame because it seems that Alfa almost, well, like they have done so much in the past, they kind of get some things so right, and in my view, the way it looks, you know, the way the engine sounds, you know, the steering is really quick, but they get some things, I think that they just don't have time then to completely finish developing a car, and some of the things fall between the cracks. If you're going to get a 147 GTA, there are some absolute must-haves. That is a Quaife limited slip diff at the front, and the bigger 330mm brakes. The early cars didn't have this, some of the later cars had them as standard, but it was actually an omission because on these cars it is pretty much essential. So the Quaife diff makes a huge difference in cutting out the understeer that they would have as standard, and you can understand that with such a big lump at the front, it would kind of tend to plough on. The bigger discs, they improve the braking, and also some of the cars with the smaller discs were known to maybe warp the discs through overheating, although I don't know how many times that has happened, but I've heard it's a possibility. In either case, you definitely want the bigger brakes. A lot of the cars that I've seen for sale do have those upgrades already, and you can see these for going for anything from £3,000 or £4,000 up to £12,000, £13,000. Now, I would heartily recommend that you don't buy a cheap GTA. If you buy something around the 5,000 or 6,000 part, or even worse, you're going to end up spending so much money on it. It's just not the kind of car that you can fall behind with on maintenance. So spend more at the beginning, get a decent car. I would say really budget, I don't know, I'd budget a minimum of 8,000 or 9,000 really, ideally more, to get a really good one of these. Now the beauty is that you will end up with an absolutely legendary engine, and this is the last evolution of one of the best V6s in the world, so you really can't lose out from that perspective. The interior looks really nice and there's some nice leather, but ultimately the sort of deeper quality, I guess you'd call it, isn't quite there. So it tends to wear fairly quickly. And some of the things feel slightly less robust than they should, but I'd say it's not too bad. It's certainly an improvement on sort of the modern Alfas of the time. Again, you want to get the leather seats. Now, if you have a seller speed version, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but it's not the best idea to get them. It's not the worst system to use. It's derived from the Ferrari F1 system and the one used in Maseratis as well. But really, although this isn't the best gearbox in the world, it's certainly a lot better than having the F1, also because there are some terrible stories of what happens when they go wrong and how much it costs to put them right. But it's just with that engine, you really want a manual gear change. In terms of rust, these really aren't that bad. They're fully galvanized. One of the things that tend to happen on red cars like this is the paint fades. So if you're looking at a red one, make sure you have decent paint, otherwise it tends to peel and fade, and then you just have to go for a respray on that. Have a good look underneath, and generally speaking, just make sure there's no obvious signs of rust. As I said, they're not particularly bad on that side, but while you're under there, also check the bushes, both at the front, but on the links at the rear suspension as well. It's definitely worth looking at that. Very much worth getting an aftermarket exhaust system. It sounds pretty good as standard because that engine is amazing, but freeing it up with a bigger back box, or a more open back box rather, makes a huge difference. And if you're going to have a car with this engine, you've absolutely got to do that. I think the only engine which I have found comparable to this Busso is the V6 found in a NSX Type S that I drove, which was incredible. But apart from that, this is just a fabulous engine. Now, when you take it out for a drive, there's some main things to check for. Make sure that everything feels reasonably tight. So if you've got the steering is quick and it's precise, there shouldn't be any slop, there shouldn't be any of that. If there is, again, double check the bushes, both front and back, tie rods, all that kind of stuff. It does tend to get quite a hard time in this car. The gear change, whilst not remarkable, it's pretty usable. They are known for getting quite stiff and quite notchy, and there are some bearings both here in the steering cup itself and at the front of the car which make a big difference to the feel. So if it feels tight or very loose, then those are likely to need to be replaced. At the same time, something I didn't mention before was that again, it's quite common to get rear main leaks, but if they're not bad, just wait until you have to redo the clutch, because it's not really worth replacing unless it's a really bad leak. They do tend to do that. Also, the front oil cooler gets a really tough time. To make sure that that is in decent condition, you can get aftermarkets. This car has one, for example. Some of the oil hoses and the fittings there again are prone to leaking, so just make sure you check that all out. It's nothing that's particularly serious, but there you go. The brakes, even with the upgraded 330 discs, are still not amazing. They are good, you get decent feel, they're okay, but they're not, don't expect anything like modern car standards. If the car is completely standard, the ride should be acceptable and the handling will be compromised on any bumpy road. When you go into corners with the Quaife diff, it will eliminate any understeer, so it's very, very well worth doing that. the chassis, expect it to be fun but flawed. So the steering is super quick, 1.7 turns lock to lock, and that makes it, and it's quite light, so it makes it feel quite lively, it's quite precise, and that is fun. The suspension though doesn't work very well, so if you have the standard suspension, expect it to, it's too soft, expect it to bottom out. The ride will be acceptable but not great. If you go for coilovers like this car has, it dramatically improves the way the car actually drives, but it makes it ride quite harshly, and I don't just mean harshly, it just doesn't always feel like it's absorbing the bumps. So it's a bit of a flawed compromise, unfortunately, but if you love it, if you love the engine, if you love something that's different to anything else, then it's well worth doing. Do bear in mind the added running costs of having one of these. But if you like the look of it, I don't think you will regret it. You'll have to be a little bit patient, but they are a lot of fun and very different from anything you can get today, and it's just impossible to get an engine that sounds like that. One of the things I would say is this car, for example, has an upgraded ECU, free-flowing exhaust, probably develops another 20 horsepower on top. Totally pointless. I think they're fast enough as standard. I would definitely do the exhaust just because of the way it sounds, but all that extra power does is just increase the torque steer, which you will get if you drive it. So to me, I wouldn't bother going in that direction. Just try and spend some money on the chassis and improve that if you can. I hope you enjoyed this short buyer's guide. If you did, please have a look at some of the other videos. Please do subscribe, and good luck in your purchase. I hope you enjoy your GTA.